No need to go far and wide. Let Hometown provide. Hometown Trophies and Embroidery in Lena can help turn your ideas into reality. From awards, engraving, and gifts to custom apparel and business accessories, they have you covered. Visit them today or give them a call at 815-369-9185. That's Hometown Trophies Embroidery. Let your vision become their masterpiece.
When it comes to planning for your future, you want someone you can trust. At Prairie State Investments, Mark Pfeiffer is here to help you build a plan that fits your life, your family, and your goals. Whether it's retirement, college savings, or investing wisely for tomorrow, Mark has the knowledge and local commitment to guide you every step of the way. Don't leave your future up to chance. Call Mark Pfeiffer at Prairie State Investments today at 815-668-8131 and start investing with confidence. Welcome to NUIC All Access, joined by Jay Doyle. I'm your host, Kyle Kampmier. Today we feature the volleyball regional head coaches from Galena and Stockton. Jay, introduce our guest to us today.
All right. It's Stockton's Maddie Pontius. Third season leading the Blackhawks, has won back-to-back regionals and was last year's state runner-up. And Galena's Dennis Wills, 19th season leading the Pirates, has won 11 consecutive regional titles, 13 overall, and won the 2023 state championship.
So thank you both for taking the time today to join us on the show, and congratulations on winning a regional championship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the first question we're going to ask is kind of geared to both of you. So Dennis, I'll let you go first, and then Maddie just pitch in when Dennis is done. The NUIC has sent 14 teams to the state finals since 2008, only missing a team in the 2013 and 2019 seasons. Over that same time, 12 teams have reached the state championship match, and we've crowned 6 state championships in that time. What does it mean to you to represent the NUIC?
I think those numbers right there tell you that we've got some of the best volleyball up in this area, in the state. And I think every year, or just about every year, as you say, that certainly comes into play. So it's a good feeling when you're playing in one of the best conferences in the state, and you're always going to run into good competition. So, I know the year we went in 23 and we were able to win state, we had to defeat, I think by the time we were done, we defeated 7 out of the top 10 teams in the state in our journey to get there. So that was quite a year. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say like we're pretty blessed to come from this area where there is that much talent, where it's like even within our conference, you get to look forward to those conference games and it's people pushing you every time. So that's very, very good feeling, and we should be blessed to have that.
I think the biggest thing, even watching off of that, is when we were talking and the regional parents came out. You just kind of going off the top of my head, you looked at the Durand regional, it had Stockton, Fulton, and a Durand. And then in the Galena regional, or in the with the Galena was Milledgeville and Eastland. And those are, kind of the 3 top teams. In Milledgeville kind of flew under the radar, but any of those 3 teams during the mid-year, I think could go anywhere and win a regional in itself, let alone be at one site in Durand and West Carroll.
Yeah, agreed. Last year wasn't really the case because most of the teams there at the sectional I thought were quality teams, but I know couple years before that, sometimes you'll see it where there's a lot of good teams sitting at home, usually from our conference, that actually deserve to be at a sectional, but the way the bracketing lays out, they don't make it. So it gets a little tough on some of those schools.
Maddie, Stockton's been on quite a run, back-to-back regional titles, a state runner-up finish last year. What's been the key for you to keeping your program at the high level again this season?
So I would have to say it's just like keeping focus on like what our goal is. We graduated 4 starters. So we're pretty young, very young, and just kind of reminding them like whatever happened last year, it's not the case this year. We have new goals. We have a whole new team. Just kind of keeping like the eye on the prize type of scenario going for them and just keeping them focused. And with them being young, there comes like the mental errors and all of that. So just kind of keeping them honed in on what the goal is, and then just trying to get over like onto that next ball mentality has kind of been our key focus.
So Dennis, as the stats shown earlier when we talked about your program, 19 seasons under your leadership, 11 straight regional titles, state title 2 years ago. What have you seen be the constant in your program from when you started to now that has led to your guys' success?
I think the program in Galena, it's not only, we have a lot of girls. We had 45 girls out this year playing volleyball in a school of a little over 200 enrollment. So, I think the more bodies you can get out and obviously success drives that factor a lot. I think girls want to be on, successful teams, successful programs. So, I think you got to have that quantity of numbers, and then you can develop your talent from there. And I think that's kind of the situation that we're in right now.
So Maddie, you were talking about graduating 4 starters from last season, and they were impact players, obviously, for your team's run to state. But you've come back, you've put together a very solid season once again. Who have been some of the players that have stepped up this season to help carry that load?
Honestly, it's been quite a few. We have some that started as freshmen, but even just like some of the sophomores that came up, and like last year, I wouldn't have had a thought about them playing, and just like they're putting in the work, they're putting in the time in the off season, and so like them bringing that to the table this fall, it just kind of helped us add to the roster and just gave us that extra push too. Um, that's got to be the biggest thing. It's really just a lot of different factors. We haven't really settled on one. Like we've had multiple lineup changes, so just kind of seeing what fits where and just having those sophomores step up has been huge.
Dennis, now going to your team, I don't want to say, we talk about flying under the radar, but I think everybody, when you graduated Gracie Furlong last year and what she was to the program the last, her 4 years and winning a state title, this team brings a new identity. How would you describe the personality strengths and the identity? What's the identity of this year's team been?
Yeah, starting out the year, we really didn't know where we'd be. And then I look out there the first night of regional and I got 2 freshmen, 3 sophomores, and 2 juniors on the court, and we're winning. So it's like, hey, this is all right. As far as identity, I mean, I think it took a good part of the season, but now our senior leadership, Maya, has really kind of stepped forward and became a leader on this team. She's been battling some injuries herself, so we're trying to get her healthier and keep her healthy as we finish this run through the state tournament. But that time of year you deal with a lot of that stuff. But I think she's really come through as a leader for us, and the girls really want to follow her. So,
but other than that,
to have that. Go ahead.
And how's you speak of health? Are you guys pretty healthy going into sectionals?
Well, go back to the beginning of the year, Leah Heller tore ligaments off of her foot, so she's been out all year. So that was a big loss to us to begin with. And then a couple Saturdays ago, a girl we had settled on playing as a DS, playing the 3 rotations in the back row, just going for a ball, nobody else involved, landed wrong on her foot and broke it in 3 places. So now she's out for the year. And then Maya dove for a ball down at the St. Thomas More tournament and kind of messed up her shoulder a little bit. So we've been really trying to nurse her through the regional so far, and then try to keep her fresh for the sectionals. So I think we'll be good to go come Tuesday night. So.
And how about you guys, Maddie? How are you guys health wise?
Knock on wood, we've been okay. Other than sophomore Emma Eisfeller, she rolled her ankle pretty good the Eastland tournament. So after that, I said we're not going to push it for the last 2 conference games. We're not going to push it first round of regional. We're just gonna try and get through without her, and she's back in and she's doing as well as she can.
So Maddie, you're matching up with NUIC, a team that's been a small school dynasty in volleyball. They've won 8 straight regional titles. They had back-to-back state championships in 2018 and 19, a 4th place finish in 2017. You played them last season as well in the sectionals, and you won it in 3 sets. After losing the first set, you came back to win the second 2 sets to move on to the championship match. What's that mindset and message you've given your team heading into this matchup again this year?
Honestly, we haven't really talked a whole lot about them. I kind of gave them a couple days off over the weekend, rest their legs, had practice today on a Sunday. Um, and then we're just gonna kind of hone in on it tomorrow and talk about it from there. But I really just think like going in as it's just the next game, it's another game. Try not to think about last year. Like I said, it's a whole new team. We're young and I think they have the capabilities to do it. And I just think giving them the mindset of we're capable and just going in and playing our ball. It really just comes down to who's going to play clean. So I just try not to make it more of a mental game than it needs to be.
Dennis, you guys are going to play Aurora Christian. They're having one of their best seasons in program history. What have you seen from them on film, if anything, and what stands out to you for your teams to be sharp against them?
Like I commented on earlier, they've got, a 6'1" girl, a 6-foot girl. It looked like a pretty athletic setter, left-hander that plays on the right side. So actually they're pretty similar to the Eastland team that we just played. So that kind of gives us a good idea how we can, play defensively against them and try to control number 7. She seems to be their big hitter and play in system. If we can play in system, we should be. I like our chances, I guess I'll say it that way. So
Good. Hopefully it works out that way too.
yeah, it's always good when it does.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Maddie, your team's battled through a tough NUIC schedule on top of some tough games and other tournaments as well, which has been one of the deepest schedules in the state. How has that weekly competition prepared you for what you're about to go up against in Newark?
It it's like a huge game changer. It really just prepares you for those tight matches, especially when like something's on the line, like season ending. Um, I think playing Fulton in that regional championship was just a huge momentum for the girls. Just letting them know like we can play with the team that's has solid hitters, a good setter, all of that. It's like we can play with them, and so just giving them the mindset that they're capable and they stuck with it. They played so hard. Like we didn't play a perfect game. We just played a hard game. We weren't letting things hit the floor. They were just swinging away. They just played really solid ball. Wasn't said like I said, wasn't perfect, but they played hard. They wanted it, and you could tell, and that was huge. So having those competitive games really just sets the tone for postseason, and we're just very fortunate to have that in our area.
Yeah, it kind of goes back when we were talking right at the opening. You take a look at the NUIC, especially over the last 16 seasons, 14 teams reaching the state finals down in Normal. It speaks a lot to what Dennis had even commented on with, we have great volleyball up here, and something that Jay's mentioned when we had you on before, and he's mentioned it a couple times as well. A lot of people don't realize how great we have for volleyball up here. And I mean, obviously the statistics show it on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
Correct.
One thing I gotta say before the next question, and I watched back and forth between your guys' regional game. I play a lot of sports, coach basketball. I don't think there's anything more nerve-wracking than when it's like 23-23 or 23-22 or any, that like right before you hit 25. I don't think for a coach or a player there's a more nerve-wracking moment than like a 23-24 something, of just the bump set spike of getting it where it needs to be. And a credit to the girls that are out there in those pressure moments, and both of your teams have handled it probably the best, being you're the last two standing, going to sectionals. But I was watching more of the Durand game of your guys' game, and just the back and forth battle of girls diving on the ground and not a ball touching the ground. It's like you got to be highs and lows in those games, right? Like,
Yeah. Absolutely. Like there were some long rallies. Like it took a long time for my film to be logged with stats. because there were so many rallies that were just long. And then I look at my girls and they're like huffing and puffing. I'm like, okay, so we need to be doing sprints. Got it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I got to say that in watching, from afar, that's the one thing, credit to both of your guys' teams, is when it came down to it, you guys made the plays when you needed to. And speaking of plays, Dennis, you guys have had some great postseason runs. 2018 runner-up, 2023 state champs. What have you learned from those seasons that you take to other seasons that you'll take into this year's sectionals?
I, I think it's one thing to just go out and play as you are as a team, and that was what we really focused on this regional. Once you hit that state tournament, it's a whirlwind. It just goes so fast, and you don't get a lot of time to adjust for, like, we played Wednesday night and had to turn around and play in the championship on Thursday night. So, you do a walkthrough and you try to talk about execution because you don't get time to practice. So it's just trying to make sure you go out and just be who you are and what's worked for you all year, not trying to change too many things. And like Maddie said, make it more of a mental game than it really needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. You want to try and keep it simple as well. And I think when you get over focused, you start to put more pressure on yourselves. And then through that pressure, you start to see more failure, more distraction. And sometimes you just start to get off the rails with it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Maddie, with Stockton, what are some of the little things that you've emphasized with your team that separates good teams from the great teams when it gets to the playoffs?
Sorry, can you repeat the beginning part? It kind of
Sure.
cut out for me.
Yep. What are some of the little things that you've done with the Blackhawks that have emphasized the good teams from the great teams when you get to this time of year?
I really have just emphasized like kind of playing a we over me type of thing where there's really no I in team. Like we've all heard that before. Focusing on the team aspect of it. And also like I know I preached this last year. The mental side of volleyball is literally 90%, where it's like 10% of your like actual skill, I feel like. So just being able to keep your mind mentally tough, not letting the other team see you sweat, like those type of scenarios, kind of trying to implement that into practice as well, and limiting like the runs of unforced errors. So just kind of like doing that in practice, letting the girls kind of get a feel on that. But like I said, just keeping them mentally tough. They've come a long way from summer ball to now. They've come a long way mentally. And I think that's really, really the big game changer on like, if you want it more, you have to show it, you have to prove it, and just be mentally engaged. That's my biggest thing. Maybe it's wrong, but that's my thing.
No, I think there's different approaches that you can have in any function, and you got to find out what works best for your girls and your situation. And I think that's important that you touch base on those things and keep them playing at their highest level that they're capable of being at.
Yeah, the thing that always gets me is everybody thinks you're in football it's this offense or that defense, or in volleyball it's a 5-2 or whatever, that the two, like with the, it's like everybody has their, like, well, if we would play this, it would be, at the end of the day, it's if the kids believe in the coaches and the coaches believe in the kids and they play hard for each other and play hard for the coaches and vice versa, good things are going to happen. And that's been one of the constants we've seen with your guys' programs. Maddie, in your short time, Dennis, in your longer time, that you could probably change what you're doing, and you're not going to skip a beat because of the kids trust you, they play hard for you, and they're going to do the little things. And I think that's where I think a lot of times it gets lost in the fold of, you're not an offense or defense away. It's just understanding what it takes in the off season to be ready in the regular season to be playing your best volleyball come postseason. You guys have been able to do that year in and year out now. And that's one of the things that I think don't get said enough, right? Like, everybody has to trust everybody or it'll all fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very fortunate that I could come in and my girls could just like trust me. Like they've been very helpful in that aspect. So yes, I would agree with that.
hmm Yeah, the team building thing is a big part of volleyball too, which obviously lands on the mental side. So uh, that's that unity that you're always looking for in a team. And like this year, we've been really fortunate to have that from day one. So it's been a fun year.
So speaking of this year, Dennis, who are some of the vocal or emotional leaders that have guided this group of Galena Pirate volleyball?
Uh, as I said, I think Maya has been our leader, and now she's really kind of taken a hold of that role. Uh, Zoe Blom, our libero, she's the chatterbox on the floor. She's constantly going at it and talking to players and keeps them involved. And it's great to have that type of person on the floor too. That's always 100% positive. And you make an error, it's over. Don't let it bring another one out. Put it behind you and move forward. So.
Maddie, you're 32-5 so far on the season. Obviously, you guys are playing with a lot of confidence, despite some of the adversity that you've had to face, replacing key contributors from last year's team. What's a word that you would use to describe this group and why?
I would say they're pretty determined. They're determined on, we set goals in the beginning. There's been bumps in the road, but they're very determined on like they know what their end goal is. We don't have a single senior on the roster. So there's not like a whole lot of pressure of like, okay, we basically have the same team next year. So that also helps. But I would say that they're a very determined group. They're young. And that's probably the word that I would use to describe them.
Dennis, I guess same question for you. Define Galena's team in a word or two.
I would say this team has been very resilient. We started the year with, really 4 girls that had no varsity experience, and they've just put their nose to the grindstone and improved all year long. And now we're seeing some of the rewards of that. So they're just everybody said we'd be a 500 team this year, but nobody told the girls that. So they're you'd never know that they didn't have any varsity experience the way some of them are playing.
So, Maddie, now we're going to get into some harder hitting questions here.
Great.
Galena's gotten the upper hand in your guys' matchups this season. 3 wins. You've only won 1 set. That was 25-22. But most of your sites have been tight, mostly by a 2 or 3 point differential, with the exception of the one time where the Pirates got you 25-14. How do you approach that kind of rivalry? What does the Stockton-Galena rivalry mean to you? And what adjustments or mindsets do you shift and try to focus on?
I feel like the rivalry is like the biggest thing, right? Like we we all thrive on the rivalry, whether it's like Galena or Lena or something like that. But it definitely just pushes you to want to win more. Um, I would say like the biggest thing too, like it happened last year. It's kind of the same scenario, right? Except we took one game from them. But this year it's just kind of going in with like it's a brand new game. Like we've matured since the last time we played them type of thing. Like just kind of keeping like it very humble type of thing. Like we just got to go, show up, play our game, limit our errors. Like that's really just don't try to overcomplicate things type of thing. So
And then Dennis, on your side, you've seen Stockton multiple times this year and come away with wins in all 3 matches. It's been a battle point to point, but how do you prepare your players for a rivalry that are sometimes razor thin? And what type of respect do you have when you play programs like a Stockton?
Well, I think we have a lot of respect for Stockton. I mean, I feel we're probably 2 of the best teams that I've seen this year. So here we are. We're probably both honestly a state caliber team, but one of us isn't going to make it. So, um, it's we know they're a good team. They know we're a good team. I think this time of year it boils down to execution. Who goes out and doesn't let the moment get too big for him. Obviously we both got to win first on Tuesday to get to that match again. So that's what I'm focused on right now. And then there's not a lot of secrets between our teams. She knows what we're going to do. I know what she's going to do, or at least most of it. And it'll come down to execution, like who makes the least amount of errors and that type of environment. So should be a great matchup if it happens.
Well, let's hope that it does.
Well, we can do that. We know that you guys got to prepare for, Aurora Christian and Newark, but we can hope that Thursday it's an all NUIC matchup going to a super sectional.
Yeah, we do too.
What do you want? What's that, Dennis?
I said, yeah, we do too.
Maddie, the energy coming out of Stockton's community this year has been at probably an all-time high, with the football program being ranked #1 in state and getting set for what is hopefully a long playoff run for the Blackhawks, but then combining that with your run on the volleyball court as well through another strong postseason play from you guys. How much does that hometown support mean to you and your players?
It's an amazing feeling. It takes me back, the nostalgia, because back in my junior year, 2012, it was the same thing. The same year that the boys went to state, we were good at volleyball before Keith Country Day took us out. But it just kind of brings me back to that moment, and just like the energy that we would feel when we were students walking down the hallway, like it was so high, walking down the hall and just having that high energy all the time. So I can't even imagine what the girls are feeling, and even the boys. And it just makes the school pride show too. But the communities come together and they're all supporting and showing up to games, and it's great. It's a great feeling to have.
And then Dennis, on your end, volleyball tradition runs very deep. What does it mean to you to see the way your town in Galena rallies around the Pirates every fall?
Definitely, it brings out the best in the girls. It's there's nothing better than playing in front of your hometown fans. And so if it means they got to travel, Galena's always been super at doing that and supporting the girls. So we're pretty blessed to have those type of communities in our programs. So it's awesome.
Well, I think that's the best. This year it's held in Stockton, so it's not a overly far trip for either. A little, of course, closer from Stockton than Galena, but I mean, you're not traveling. Eastland, what'd I say?
You said Stockton.
Yeah, I knew what I meant. But yeah, both having to travel to Eastland, I think that's a good host, a large enough that everybody can show up and watch a great sectional that starts on Tuesday.
Yeah, agreed. I think, we were in Mount Carroll, so now it's 6 miles farther, so that's not so bad.
So both of you guys are leading programs built on culture, discipline, pride. When you look at the sectional field, what do you each see as the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity in front of your teams this week? Maddie, you can go first.
Okay. I would say the biggest challenge for us is it's probably going to be a lot of these girls haven't played in the sectional before, right? Just those nerves. But hopefully we can just get out there, play our game. And then the biggest opportunity is, like I said earlier, we have nothing to lose, right? We don't have a single senior on the floor. We just got to go out. Doesn't mean that we're going to be in the same situation next year, but it just means like they still have another year to play together, still have those same goals type of thing. So I would say that's the biggest opportunity for our girls. And just like I said, keeping the nerves under control for the girls who haven't really seen the sectional floor.
Dennis?
I would agree with what Maddie said. I think, having that experience on the court, for the younger girls, you just never know how it's going to affect them. But like I say, if we can play within what we normally do, that's our goal. As far as opportunity goes, I don't believe Aurora Christian probably played in too many of these games. So I'm hoping when they walk into the Eastland gym that maybe they run into that same type of mental situation, and maybe we can be a little more prepared and take advantage of that the first game. So that'll be our goal anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wish you both the best of luck in this journey. Like we've already stated, hopefully you both pull out the sectional semifinal wins to move into that Uber sectional championship that everybody has been really geared up for since the brackets first came out here a couple weeks ago. And you guys have been top 10 ranked in state all season. You guys have proven it game after game after game. And, it is an exciting time of the year as we move into sectionals this week. And then obviously next week it moves down to normal for the state finals. So, we both wish you the best of luck. And we look forward to what you guys can do in your matchups this week and then hopefully against each other Thursday night.
Thank you.
That'll be a good thing. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
You
All
too.
right.
All right. Thank
Jay
you.
and I will return to talk about what we have coming up this week, plus what we've had to talk about over the past 2 weeks when we return right after this.
Transform your outdoors with Baber Service Company. Landscape design and construction, including retaining walls and patios, mulch and rock beds, seasonal cleanups, and so much more. Serving Joe Davies, Carroll, Stevenson, Winnebago, Whiteside, Ogle, and Lee counties. Enhance your outdoor space with expert craftsmanship and attention to detail. Contact Baber Service Company today at 815-291-6334.
Jay, we just got done talking with Maddie Pontius and Dennis Wills as they get prepared for the sectionals for volleyball. And, these two coaches are used to this environment. Obviously, Maddie making the state championship game a season ago. Dennis was there 2 seasons ago. And on top of that, has been down to the state finals before. These two had met a season ago in the sectional championship as well. So, there's a lot of big things going on here. And one of the things I found interesting, not surprising, because it was almost similar last year, where Galena won 2 of 3 matches against Stockton before playoffs. But this year, Galena has won all 3 matchups against Stockton going into the playoffs. But both of them for Maddie and Stockton, they're facing a familiar foe in NUIC, who they played a season ago in the same game, the sectional semifinals. Whereas Galena's playing Aurora Christian, first time they've probably gone up against an Aurora Christian team. So it'll be interesting to see what transpires there.
Yeah, I mean, Aurora Christian's going to come in, and going back on what you were just saying, the conversation we had last year, we could be having the same conversation after talking to them next year. With Stockton not having one senior on the team, they bring their core back, everybody back, and Galena has 2 starters, 45 kids on the roster, as Coach Wills said. They keep rebuilding, they keep reloading, and that's going to be the thing. I mean, we get to this point, a freshman's not a freshman, a sophomore's not a sophomore, a junior's not a senior. You played enough volleyball that you're all ready to show up and play, and it's just going to be who's what type of night. I mean, you go to last year's game, I'm sure Galena looks back and think they could have had that one versus Stockton, and that's going to be the same vice versa. Whoever, if they get there, right, they both have to get there after Tuesday's game. But if whoever gets there, and if it is both the NUIC teams, they're going to feel the same way if they come away with a loss, and the win's going to be the biggest win for each team in the year. But the biggest game they both have is Tuesday. Galena's going to be playing a Aurora Christian team who has some big players, big hitters, and Stockton's back with their familiar foe in Newark, and they got to get past Tuesday before they even think about a Thursday.
Yeah. Well, and that's the truth. I mean, you start overlooking things, that's when you run into trouble, and you know how that goes just as much as I do. We've seen it happen too many times before where you start to take a look and you grow complacent thinking that you're just gonna show up and win. And when you get to this level, you're not just showing up and winning. And like with Stockton against Newark, Newark gave them a challenge last year. They took them to 3 sets. They won the opening set before Stockton came back and won the final 2 sets. But Newark's been to the state championship game, granted a few years ago under a different coach, but they have that legacy beneath them. And I think no different than what Stockton and Galena have going. They have a lot of history and they want to keep building upon that.
Yeah, and to that, it's just going to be, I know it sounds how it sounds, but service errors and receive errors are going to be huge. And when it comes to good volleyball, and when you watch both of these teams play in Stockton and Galena, their passing and receiving is just better than other teams, and that's where games are won and lost. And when you watch that, it's how is the back row getting the ball to the setter for you to get good chances on every spike. And when you're not playing well and the passes are off and the setter's running all over and you're tipping rather than hitting, when you're in a sectional game against sectional opponents, all 4 teams here deserve to be here. I think we should make sure we say that point. Newark, Aurora Christian, Stockton and Galena, all 4 deserve to be there. They've earned their way there, and all 4 probably feel they got a great shot to win a sectional title.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Obviously, we know who we're rooting for, but I think either way, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I'll definitely be tuned in Tuesday night before I have to start shooting another podcast for the.
You're the pod man. You're the pod man.
Football playoffs, but we'll definitely be tuned in. And my intent is to hopefully make a trip to Eastland on Thursday to catch that sectional championship game as well. So really looking forward to it and the excitement that our area has when it comes this time of season, and volleyball's right there in the mix.
Yeah, I think for anybody now, outside of Galena and Stockton, they need to become the biggest Stockton Galena fans, and that's how it should be. Everybody had their agenda of rooting for their school or their favorite, and whether they were or beat or lost to either of these teams or whatever, now you got to root for a Stockton and Galena to represent what we've seen in the last however many years at the stat at the beginning of the of the pod that we had, that we want to see one of these 2 teams make it to state and hoist a trophy up and add to the list of volleyball trophies in the last 20 years.
So 14 teams in the last 16 seasons have reached the state finals. 12 of that 14 have made the championship match. 6 of them have brought home titles.
There you go.
So
hopefully add another this year.
Yeah, that's always the goal. That's always the goal. But no, I do. And both coaches talked about how great the NUIC is. And, you've made the comment before, we see it all the time in football, and it's talked highly about in the football season. But when you take a look at volleyball has been almost just as dominant as football has been since 2008. And then on top of that, we've seen it play into other sports with basketball, girls basketball specifically, because boys basketball is competitive, but we have not had the state caliber teams like girls basketball has. And then we've seen girls softball as well make deep runs. We've had a couple teams in the baseball side, but more so the girls side there as well. So it's important to talk about these athletes and what they've done, female and male, because we have a great conference. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, if anybody, and I always find that that's the comical part. If you're small, short-minded on that and just think, well, bigger school, bigger this, bigger, smaller school, smaller this. Just take a look at the NUIC's record in the last however many years. Whether we're playing volleyball, we can't play football, but I mean, that is what it is. But as you said, last year, girls basketball, look at the teams at the top NUIC teams played in the area, whether it be Pecatonica, you look at Galena, you look at Orangeville, you look at down the list of schools that played competition around the state at different levels and different classifications and what they were able to do, and with Stockton hoisting a trophy at the end of the year, and how close each one of those teams were to a state appearance and or winning and losing. And you see it in softball. You look at the Dakotas and the Orangevilles, who have been the constant winners of their programs. The schedules that they set up against other programs around the area, they're normally victorious in those. And what gets Stockton and Galena ready is playing other schools that are at the top, and then they schedule non-conference schools that are at the top and go to these tournaments, and they come out successful. And that's what you have to do. But I think the funny thing I always found, and you hear it a lot on the NUIC football side, is how these schools, well, they can't compete because of their enrollment or whatever. And it's like, well, put our stats up against any other conferences and any other schools, and you'll see that we put out Division I players, and normally schools go head to head. You've seen it in multiple things we're victorious more than we're not. And that's a credit to the kids and the coaches in this conference of what they bring to the table. Like I said, I get some of the football stuff you can't, because it's all classifications and stuff like that. And I'm a realist in the fact of, I look at a 3A level, the Byrons of the world, of what they would do in the NUIC, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I get all that, but just some of the stuff that's said, and that just makes you laugh a little bit.
It does. It does. Anyway, let's move on. We'll talk about football right now. We'll talk about a few things here. Obviously, we just saw Lena Winslow and Stockton and Dupec all win first-round games to move into second-round matchups. Obviously, Stockton and Lena Winslow had to knock out Forreston and Galena in order to do so. And I was just going through the new rating system today, and I actually had a conversation with one of Stockton's assistant coaches Saturday on my drive back from Farmington after watching EPC lose.
You almost got it, Kyle.
Oh, man.
You almost got it.
That was a tough loss for sure. I've never been a bigger EPC fan than I was Saturday. But talking about Galena and Forreston, the conversation was definitely about those two teams would beat over half of the Class 1A field, and it's very hard to not agree with that assertion and assessment, for the simple fact that you take a look at the body of work both teams have put together and what they've done, and it's just, they competed. I mean, Galena was down 8-0 to the number one ranked team in the state at halftime before losing 26-0. And I don't know. Like I said, still looking at the ratings as of today with all of the new information put into it, those two teams still top 10 teams.
Yeah, the unfortunate part is some teams win, some teams lose. I go back to one game for Galena. I'm sure Forrest can go back to one game. But it's, I'll go back to the ones they played against each other. What path does Galena have different if they're able to pull that game out at Forreston? Now, if that happens, Forreston possibly is a 4-5 and don't get in. But
correct,
you're 6-3 Galena, and you're not traveling to Stockton for that first round. So when we talk of all the classifications and all that, it's like, those are the games I look back and like, there's the difference of your season of if you didn't want to play. The unfortunate part is when you're 5-4, you're going to play a 9-0, or you're going to play one of the top teams in the state, and that's one of the tough things that you gotta battle. But I'm sure we could go back, and that's what I was trying to look for, the Forreston schedule of their wins and losses, of where they may have lost the game that they could look back on. But I go back because I was watching that game versus Galena, and they had a great chance to win that game, and they weren't able to win that game. And you have they lost that game, and then they ended up winning at the end, and they finished 5-4. That got them a first round matchup versus Stockton. On the Forreston side, they lost to Lee Wynn 48-22. They lost to Stockton 44-6. They lost to Dupec 34-20, and lost to EPC 51-24. So maybe the Dupec game was the closest of those four, but you had that big win versus Galena 22-20. That was your fifth win to get you in the playoffs, and at 5-4, that's going to get you one of the big boys. So
It is, but hats off to both those teams. Obviously, they had to go through the struggle, and there was a lot of big moments because going into week 8, Galena was 3-4. They had to win.
Their playoffs started week 8.
And, basically, Forreston was in the playoffs ever since that game against Galena back in week 5. Because they were up against that wall the entire time, and that trip down to Leroy in week 8, that was a huge trip. And, like I said, hats off to those teams because it's been they had to go through it. They had to get it done. They got there. Yes, they met up with the 2 top teams in the state that everybody's really amped up and gearing for. And of course, we get the luxury of seeing that potential matchup come down to the semifinals, which, if that were to happen and live into eternity, what did we find out tonight?
Well, that was the big thing I asked. To go back on that for 2 seconds, in coaching football for a long time, trust me, when you're not making the playoffs and you don't have a playoff team, 5-4 in the playoffs feels great. So those kids should be ashamed of nothing. Coaches, you made a playoffs in the toughest conference, and being there and doing it before and making it the playoffs with a couple times at 5-4, I would never did I feel bad about it.
No. Nor should you.
No. But one of the things I talked about when we walked in was, we can look ahead. The coaches can't look ahead. The players can't look ahead. But that was one of the things we talked about tonight when we were talking of upsets in the playoffs. And it only takes one, and everything gets changed. And you can talk about what we talked about, because I can't remember the team that changed it.
It was Hayworth.
But Hayworth
beat.
Get your graph out.
I know, I'm getting there. Hayworth beat Princeville. And Princeville was at home. That game was a back and forth game too. It was tied up at 14, I think, going into the fourth quarter. Hayworth won 21-14.
So and this is how every game matters, but the Hayworth team was the 9, Princeville was the 8, which now puts Stockton on the road round 2.
Correct.
And if they were to win, they would be home round 3. So they'd have 2 road
games,
1 away. And with how the Lee Win schedule went, their home round 1, their home round 2, more than likely, possibly, they'll be away round 3.
They're going to be away round 3 regardless of who wins that game.
Yeah.
They're either going to go to Kewanee to play Anawan Weathersfield, or they're going to Deer Creek to play DMAC.
So both will have 2 home, 1 away, which then puts
the game in Stockton.
The game will be at Stockton in the semifinals.
If everything goes as planned.
And everyone can thank Hayworth for that.
Yes. And Stockton should be happy again.
Which I would say,
as a fan,
that will be a great game to watch, because you're right up in the field of play at Stockton, which I've said for many times, and I've said it on NUIC football, and I've said it here. One of my top 3 places to watch a football game is at Stockton. Stockton is one of the best places to watch a football game because you are 10 feet from from the field of play. You're 15 feet from the field of play, and you can see everything.
Yeah, if you get right up against a rope and a
And you
play
can-
comes
and-
your way, you might have a player. at
Yeah, and
your feet.
if they have this by this time of year, it's a little softer rope, so you can kind of lean in on it. So you can get even closer. And then you got the old school baseball diamond in the end zone and
Both end zones.
everything like that. So just a great place to watch a football game, and that's where it should be being played at. If those two teams are fortunate enough to make it there.
Yeah. You can play the favorites all you want. Obviously, they're both the favorites to get there, but you still have to go through and play those games and then play it out.
Yep. And speaking of playing games, we were talking, and you were talking of 8-man football first round.
Yep.
And you can say your funny stat, your good stat for those at home.
So obviously on the 8-man side, we saw all 4 NUIC playoff teams, Milledgeville, Amboy, West Carroll, and Polo, all advanced to the quarterfinals this week. And they are a perfect 18-0 collectively in their time in 8-man in the first round playoffs. So what this does is it sets up a huge opportunity to have an all NUIC semifinal, which we have not had ever.
So, which Amboy will be playing Pawnee
At Pawnee
with your guy.
Coach Talley.
Yep.
And QB Caden Ward,
Yep.
who just set the
Who just
IFA
set-
passing record.
Yep. All of those things, but Amboy will be traveling there. Milledgeville will be playing South Beloit.
Mhm.
So for surely, a great game going to be there with Milledgeville.
Which means that potential semifinal goes to the Harbor.
Your place, the Harbor. In the other, we have West Carroll and South Fork. Your other guy.
George Bailey just surpassed 2,000 yards on the season this past week.
Yes, he did. So West Carroll's going to have their hands full, but Kyle's prediction has West Carroll by 2. So we'll see there. And then Polo will be playing St. Anne.
At home.
At home. So if you could see in these 4 games a Polo win, a West Carroll win, a Milledgeville win, and an Amboy win.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of
It's an
fun.
NUIC tournament in Monmouth.
It's going to be great. And actually, I was just having a conversation with Dwayne Hewlett, who runs TSSR Game Time Live. So I will be in Polo helping with the broadcast of that game for TSSR.
There you go.
So Polo St. Anne, I'll be in Polo for that one. It'll be a lot of fun.
Speaking of fun, some records were made
Yes.
in football in both 8-man and 11-man. Do tell, Kyle.
So on the 8-man side, over the past 2 weeks since we were last on the show, we were able to see Orangeville running back Hayden Schofield surpass 4,000 career yards. He also moved into the number 4 spot all-time in IFA history. He had over 1,900 yards this season, over 1,900 yards last season. He's within 1,628 yards of setting the new all-time rushing record, which is held by Caden Drosty of Biggsville West Central at 6,103 yards. So, provided Hayden can come through with another big season that replicates each of the seasons he's had his sophomore and junior year, we're going to be talking about a new rushing champion in 8-man.
At least a watch.
Yes.
Next year we'll have the watch. And then an 11-man?
On the 11-man side, we saw Lena Winslow's Alex Schlichting surpass 3,000 career yards. With that, he also eclipsed the 40-yard rushing touchdown mark, along with running mate Aiden Wild. And Aiden Wild is quickly closing in on 3,000 career rushing yards himself.
And that's one of the things I made sure to say, as I was the only one who picked Lee Wynn to win the state title. I'll make sure I say Alex Schlichting is playing good football right now.
Oh yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, he is getting stronger as the year's going on. Healthy, playing good football, getting ready for hopefully a matchup here in a couple weeks.
So I did run some projections today. Do you want to know what they were?
I would love to. And
the crowd wants to know
yes,
too.
if we had the crowd applause, we would
would have
some crowd applause here.
Yeah. Well, taking a look at those projections right now as where it stands going into round 2, Lena Winslow is the early favorite to beat Stockton for that trip to normal. So there you have it.
You could ask your projections, or you could just ask me.
Yeah.
One or the other. One or the other. But yes, and a big couple weeks coming up. We have volleyball sectionals this week. We have round 2 of both 8-man and 11-man. Basketball is now gearing up. Girls basketball will be starting this week. Men's basketball will be starting next week. And we're going to be changing channels and getting ready for the new year. So a lot of things happening. A lot of kids are going to get busy again, and it's going to be a fun fall ending, and it's going to be a great winter.
Oh yeah. Our next show will definitely most likely have, hopefully, the coach that wins the sectional championship in volleyball and makes our hopeful run to normal.
Hopeful.
Along with the football coaches that also make their way to either Monmouth and Normal for the respective state championships as well. So stay tuned for that, because that will be coming up the pipeline. And then we'll start breaking into girls and boys basketball. And my early hope is to get Eastland coach Tyler Zumdahl on to kind of talk about how last season went and moving forward into this season as well. So he owes us a show. He couldn't make it. He was busy when he got down to state, and I don't blame him. I would want my focus to stay there too.
That would be great. I was just thinking of something funny to say, but I won't. Of why he couldn't make it. Yeah, but yeah, we won't pull that scab off again. But no, great. Going to be a great fall finish. Let's hope that both Stockton and Galena can make it to the championship, and then we'll see all NUIC, and let's root for some NUIC teams in 8-man. A full 8-man final would be fantastic.
Oh
I don't know if that will be the case. There's a couple teams in there that have been playing good football, and
we've seen 3 teams make it, never 4.
Never 4. So let's hope for that. And then an 11-man, we just got to keep rooting for the heavy hitters to get that big game in Stockton. And that will be one of the biggest games, I mean, that we've probably seen since a Forest and Lena battle back in the day, those couple years that they played back and forth in those great teams. So got to be cool to be a fan of those teams, and got to be cool to watch good volleyball and good football play.
Yep. Dupec will play host this week in the second round to number 1 ranked Byron. So that'll be interesting. Obviously, we've seen those two meet up back in week 6. That went by way of Byron 42-14. So Byron, obviously, again, is the heavy favorite in this game. But, hopefully Dupec can give her their best shot again. And
we talked to
Coach
Demas, and that was one of the things he welcomed.
Yeah.
He welcomed the challenge of, if you're playing Byron, you're probably
doing pretty good,
and you're still playing football, and they are still playing football, and they're one of the teams that they're one of the few teams that are still playing football.
Of which Dupec is perfect in the first round of the playoffs since their co-op came into existence. So congratulations to Rivermen as they keep that trend rolling.
Yeah, so they'll get a very good Byron team, but we've seen a lot of things happen in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. No doubt about that. The biggest thing is if your team's already done, like Jay said, get out to those games and root for your other conference teams, because let's be honest, the conference support is huge in this area, and it is important. And at the end of the day, you can always live on live on the fact and hang your hat on it that you played in the toughest conference in the state of Illinois in small school football. There's no greater feeling than having that pride and joy of knowing that that's what you had to go up against week in, week out. Obviously, with today's social media adventures, a lot of these kids are friends with each other from other schools, which did not exist back in our day. We probably hated each other back in our day, but I know I did anyway. But
I think I'd still hate them if I had lived in this. I mean, but we lived in a different time.
it is a different
But
time. But it is a lot of fun to see. And, I do enjoy that camaraderie that we have.
well, it was one of those things even back then, joking about it, but now in seriousness, we all still got along, but when you played each other, you wanted to kick each other's ass, right?
Yeah.
So, you got to get past that to where it's like, okay, now it's over. And if, for the teams that are there, in volleyball, a Stockton and a Galena, nothing but class coming from those two coaches, and you'd have no reason not to root for those schools, right? So they're two teams that have been there, and in Stockton, they have been, the last 3 years under Coach Pontius have been one of the top teams, and Coach Wills for 19 years. I mean, 11 straight regional championships.
We'll have to find out what his career total wins are, because I know he's
lot.
well over
That's
500.
what it is.
He's got to be closing in on 600
Yeah,
wins.
I Googled him, and I asked how many wins does he have, and it just said a lot. So I don't know how many that takes to say that, but that's what it said. That was a lot. So
anyway, lots of big things coming up here, as we've already stated. Get out to those games, root for your teams. As always, root for the NUIC.